Crawl, what are you doing here? And is that Ted's Scoutmaster uniform?
Oh, I heard you wanted to talk about rangers, and none do it better than my people. And, well, scouts, scouting, rangers, it all works.
Tell us more why your folk make such great rangers.
Got natural weapons, got natural armor. You won't find more cunning artisans.
Oh, wow, that's great.
But I wasn't finished. We're also natural-born swimmers. We can hold our breath almost indefinitely. And my people are proud hunters of lore, and we derive sustenance from our prey.
Yeah, but, you don't get any bonuses to strength or dexterity, so it's kind of a deal breaker for me. Sorry. Welcome to Nerdarchy. I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and today I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Crowl.
Well, welcome, Nerdarchist Crowl. Hey, do you folks like D&D content you can drop right in your game?
If the answer is yes, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to tune to that notification bell.
You better do what he says. I don't want him to get cranky and use that hungry jaws.
So today we're going to talk about doing the best race to play a ranger, huh?
That's the plan, Crawl. Although I was kind of expecting Nerdarchist Ted, but I think we can make this work. You're kind of wildernessy. Wait a minute, that made you cranky the last time we talked about that, if I recall correctly. But I think you know a thing or two about Rangers.
I do.
So the thing about the Rangers is they are a very stat-heavy class, or they can be.
Well, since it requires, strength for athletics, dexterity for armor class, wisdom for spotting things that are out there, and constitution for hit points. It can definitely get pretty stat heavy.
Yeah, I would break it down even further and kind of say, are you playing a strength-based ranger, probably fighting, with maybe 2 long swords or 2 battle axes or sword and board, or are you a dex-based ranger where you're either using ranged weapons or even, finesse-style weapons as well?
Absolutely.
But then the wisdom side of it is, as a ranger, you're a half caster. So primary stat is going to be wisdom for spellcasting. If those spells require a saving throw, you're going to want to have a decent wisdom.
And, like I said, any martial class, anyone that's going to be expecting to, be willing to take damage or absorb damage, you're going to need that constitution score.
Especially because they don't have as high an armor class as, say, the fighter or the paladin. So that's going to be more important. So for all those reasons, we say that our ranger is a very stat-heavy class.
I mean, even if you look at the old editions of D&D, you actually needed higher stats to become a ranger.
Yeah, the prereqs were higher. Now, you can, through careful spell selection, you can kind of eliminate wisdom as being a super important stat. But on the other hand, you're still a ranger, so I feel like ranger characters tend to be more perceptive and aware of their surroundings and stealthy. So I just feel like there's so much baggage that goes with being a ranger.
So if we're going to dive in and talk about the best race to play a ranger, then obviously we're going to have to throw out that racial disclaimer that, the other Nerdarchists have done in videos past. So that's going to be your human, your half-elf, your Warforged envoy, and the Simic hybrid. They make good anything. They may not be as great as us lizard folk, but, they can be anything.
We actually came up with 27 dex options, 23 strength options. Now, there's definitely probably going to be some crossover in there because we do know some of the races actually get bonuses to both, and it is kind of ignoring wisdom as well.
In some of the other videos that you've seen on the Nerdarchy channel, where we go through and talk about the different races, we list them all and say, what's going to be good, what's going to be not. This list was way too long for us to read everything. So we're going to give you the short and sweet version of what we found doing this research.
All right. Player's Handbook, you get 5 options for strength, 5 options for dex, and you also have half-elf and human, where you can have bonuses both to, whether you're going strength or dex as your primary. In addition, you could get that wisdom bonus as well.
So Wood Elf and Forest Gnome, these are going to stand out amongst the dex-based options.
Yeah, absolutely. For strength, I mean, you can't go wrong with a half orc. I think that's a really strong contender because that is going to give you strength and con. You just might take a little bit hit on your wisdom score.
Next, we go to the Player's Guide to Elemental Evil. And for your dex-based options, we have the Aarakocra and the Air Genasi. Don't recommend eating Aarakocra. They're a bit stringy.
In that same book, you have two options for strength, and that is going to be an Earth Genasi or the Goliath.
Goliath is, similar to the half-orc, offers some definite strong points in strength.
Next, we go to Volo's Guide to Monsters. Now, Volo's Guide to Monsters, just like our Player's Handbooks, gives us 5 options for dex, 5 options for strength.
Now, Bugbear is going to be one of those crossovers that you were talking about that offers both a strength and a dex-based. And because they, offer some other things, they make pretty good rangers.
Now, that book is full of more of the monstrous races, so there's a lot of great options for playing a ranger in there. Kenku stands out for your dex base because they get the benefits to both dex and wisdom.
Triton's more of an aquatic ranger, but I think they stand out amongst the strength options.
Not to mention Furbolg, too. Wisdom and strength, and also they are kind of fey creatures. Next on our list is Sword Coast Adventures.
So here we're offered 3 options for dex and 1 for strength.
Yes, I mean, it's easier to call out the 1 for strength than anything. That's a dwarf, and that's going to be Duergar.
Duergar is quite a solid race, and, if you're looking to play a more underdarky kind of a ranger, they're definitely going to work out for you. And
then our standout as far as stats go is going to be a halfling, Ghostwise halfling. They get wisdom, they get dex, and you're a halfling with lucky, so we can't go wrong there.
Always a solid go. So next we move on to the Turtle package, and, well, let's face it, there's only one thing in the Turtle package. So need we say more?
It's the Turtle, it gets strength, it gets wisdom, possibly one of your cousins.
I wouldn't say cousins. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes offers another 4 options for dex and 2 for strength.
Yeah, most of these options are going to be tieflings. So whether you're talking about strength or dex, for the ranger, you can get a tiefling option for either.
If you go also in dex, there's also some new Shatterkai. There's also some new elves, whether you go Sea Elf or Shatterkai.
And then going back to strength, we actually have the Githyanki, which would be kind of like, that would make probably a really good Horizon Walker Ranger, kind of the planar Ranger.
Absolutely.
Finally, we're going to jump to the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron.
This offers a staggering 7 options for dexterity and 4 options for strength.
The reason there are so many options for dexterity is because Shifter's primary stat adjustment is to dexterity, and then you have the subclasses for Shifter as well, which the Wild Hunt being the most optimal as far as if you want to bonus the dex and wisdom.
Changeling is another fun one. Kalishtar. If you go into strength, you also can get into the Warforged, and Warforged can add an interesting twist to the typical ranger.
Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica has one of the smaller offerings. We're going to get 1 for dex, and we're going to get 3 for strength.
Ravnica does not seem to be very dexterous.
Not at all. But we do get the Centaur option, which gives you both strength and wisdom. So if you wanted to make a strength-based Centaur Ranger, that's the way to go for sure. So for features, what we decided to look at is racial features that offer more of the exploration pillar to Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, the Wood Elf offers, those racial features that increases speed, the ability to disappear into the background, the foliage, if you will. That very much speaks to the typical, wooded ranger.
You also have the Aarakocra, which can fly, so that's going to overcome a lot of obstacles when it comes to exploring the terrain.
Even if it does create its own problems. The Forest Gnome and the Deep Gnome, these bespeak to, getting out into the wilderness. The gnomes, whether you go forest, whether you go deep, they're races that are more inclined to go out and explore, to search, and that really indicative of what that ranger is. Forest gnomes have the ability to, speak to animals, and that's a very rangery type thing.
Deep gnomes have natural camouflage when it comes to stone in their own environments. They're very much fit in easily. Next up, we have the human. You go variant. You have tons of options for exploration. If that's what we're saying is one of the features is going to make you a better ranger.
Furbolgs, they seem very very at home in the forest. They have the ability to cast invisibility, so they begin to disappear in whatever the surrounding is. And that's ranger.
The Goliath has altitude acclimation. They have literally features that help them survive in the wilds. So you can't get any more ranger than that.
If you're going to the mountains.
If you're going to the mountains.
The Triton brings its own aquaticness to the ranger feel. So if you're going to play any kind of a game where water could be a potential hazard, going with a Triton, their ability to swim, their ability to be amphibious is going to be a great step up in the right direction. And that's on top of them also getting spells.
Yeah, anything with a swim speed one is going to make an excellent ranger in aquatic environments, in coastal environments. Another one you might want to look at, probably a favorite to you, would be the lizard folk.
Well, I'm quite fond of the lizard folk, as you probably can tell. They've got a natural weapon. They've got a built-in armor class. They've got quite the skill set that you can choose from, as well as the ability to build things out of their fallen prey. Features-wise, everything that a lizard folk gets is built for a ranger.
Yeah, anything with the swim speed, just remember, if you are involved in aquatic combat, most of the downsides to that you totally ignore because you have a swim speed. So that's also really important to keep in mind. Lastly, I would like to mention the shifter and the turtle. Both of them are very naturally. They have skills and abilities that make them excel at the exploration pillar.
Warforged scouts, well, I mean, let's face it, they're literally built for ranging.
For our themes, we're basically looking at anything that seems to have a natural bent to it, or the kind of surrounded by like a mythology and rangers.
Elves are, of course, the people of the woods. The stories even have their cities built, huge natural surroundings. They are far more bent towards liking nature, including even having things built within the trees themselves, rather than, let's tear everything down and build in a nice wide open plain.
Humans can be pretty much anything, and one of the reasons why I put human on the list is because the most popular ranger that I think anyone can ever think of is Strider, Aragorn. So for that alone, the mythology of it, they belong on this list.
If you've got human, you've got elf. Why not half elf? They cross the boundaries between the two. You've got, from Dragonlance, you've got Tanis half elven, and he was a very popular ranger amongst those novels.
Obviously, the gnome, we talked about them earlier. David the gnome is a very popular forest gnome, in my opinion. They very much look like, garden gnomes to me, and they just belong in, the forest where they build their homes right into the environment.
I'm going to throw two of them together. They're practically cousins anyway. You've got the goblin, you've got the bugbear. They, for the most part, live in natural surroundings. They don't really care for civilization. They can wander. They can hunt. So for the most part, these things are steeped in mythological culture and are definitely things that are definitely races that speak to a more rangery bent.
Again, most of the races that are kind of primitive fall into this. You said goblin and bugbear, but orc easily fits in here. Shifter easily fits in here. Furbolgs live in nature itself and are fey creatures. So really, they're all good candidates. But now let's kind of like boil it down and come up with what we consider the best race to play a ranger.
Typically, we give you, a third place, a second place, and a first place, for the best. But because of the way rangers can be built, we had to go in a different direction. So we decided we were going to give the best overall in strength and the best overall in dex, and then a supreme best of, what makes the best ranger. So let's boil it down.
Best strength ranger, hands down, in my opinion, because they get a bonus to strength, because they get a bonus to wisdom, because they don't have to worry about armor class nearly as much as other races, because they're natural born travelers and wanderers. They carry their home with them on their back, some might even say. I got to give it to the turtle.
I think Centaur was a front runner, but yeah, I gotta give it to the turtle.
Next up for decks, where do we want to go?
There are lots of options for decks that are out there, and because of that, we had to go with the options, and we're looking at Shifter.
There's a lot of different ways to build your shifter. They have a lot of abilities that are going to help you in both combat and exploration. So yeah, I feel like they fit. There's a lot of other good builds that we could have gone with that would work as well too. Aragorn being a chief among them.
I know what you're thinking, because I'm sitting here, because, Kral, the guest of honor, the best overall has to be lizard folk, right?
It was really hard not to put lizard folk on the list of the top 3. It's probably number 4 in my opinion. Even though they only have wisdom, they don't have strength or dex, but they do have constitution. It's supremely important for an adventurer, but they get so many abilities that are so useful. But at the end of the day, it didn't check all the boxes for us, so we had to go with the other white meat, elf. That's right.
We had to go with wood elf. The superior mobility, the natural camouflage that they get in forest surroundings, really speaks to exactly what the ranger has to do. And you couple that with their mechanical pluses to dexterity and to wisdom, that they were the complete and utter front runner for ranger.
Yeah, and not only that, they get Fey ancestry, they get trance. So for us, they are the overall best ranger. So the question is, what do you think the best race is to play a ranger? Did we get it right? Did we get it wrong? We have a place that we can discuss it down in the comments. But before you go there, I would ask you to check out our Patreon. We want to thank our patrons for making these videos possible. What we're doing over Patreon is we're adding extra content for the fans. We are creating products for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons every month. Patrons get it early. They get it for less before it goes up on our store. We have other benefits over there. On your way to the comments, check out the description where you can find the Patreon link.
So while you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.